Rotom at this point has to be one of the most iconic Pokemon in the franchise, at least for people who actually played the games. I mean, you can't really avoid him. Even if you hate this little dude, he's glued to your hip for like half of the mainline series. So get used to him, baby. Rotom has been used in the Pokemon franchise in a really unique way, almost transcending what it means to be a Pokemon. And I know that sounds dramatic, but when your gaming laptop gets upgraded to a Rotami in 2027, just know I tried to warn you. From the seemingly endless amount of variants of what Rotom is able to inhabit, as well as the fact that he little by little plagues different pieces of your Poke electronics in like a non-playable stamp to the bottom of your screen kind of way, the way Game Freak uses Rotom is unlike any other Pokemon. To really get a full picture, we need to start from the beginning. Rotom was first introduced to the Pokemon franchise in Gen 4 in the infamous location known as the Old Chateau. In Gen 4, Rotom had all 5 of his forms, but something was unique about him here, and it's different from every other generation. Rotom's type never changed. Heat Rotom, Electric Ghost. Frost Rotom, Electric Ghost. Rotom, Rotom. Despite this, you'd still gain the move associated with the variation of Rotom, as well. Changing forms would give your Rotom better base stats in everything but speed. Base Rotom might not have much, but at least he's shifty with it. Alas, a short but sweet introduction to our beloved hero. Moving into Gen 5, Rotom started to spread his wings and fly, gaining the ability to change types depending on what it possessed. Interestingly enough, from Gen 4 to 7, the only way to change said forms of Rotom is through various different rooms throughout generations, where you have to pop in to possess the appliance and then return if you want to change it. Gen 8 introduces the Rotom catalog, which was just a beautiful bout of convenient game design. Rotom can now change forms in your very own back pocket. You just point at a fridge and Rotom can say, yeah, close enough. On a serious note, being that Rotom is one of those Pokemon I have a real soft spot for, this change made me extremely happy. Anything to make my electric buddy just a little bit more viable as a member of my party, though I was willing to go the distance for him regardless. Interesting note on the Rotoms of Gen 7, due to the whole Rotom Dex situation, which we'll get into later, he was left out of Sun and Moon, at least in part. In Ultra Sun and Moon, our guy is available to be a party member and a Pokédex, and oddly enough, you can trade him into OG Sun and Moon, which means he was in the game all along. For some reason, they just didn't want to put him in the base game. Even weirder, he doesn't have a Pokédex entry, not in Sun and Moon, not in Ultra, nowhere near Gen 7. What makes that even stranger is he is the Pokédex of the game. You'd think that that would mean that he knows a little bit about Rotom more than any other Pokemon, but no, he's either got amnesia or just rocks for brains. I saw this funny post while doing research for this video, and I figured that you guys would appreciate it too. The legend deleted user says Rotom, who's essentially one of the main characters of Generation 7, does not get its own Dex entry. Does Rotom have some kind of dissociative identity disorder? Rotom, who are you? What the fuck are you saying, man? And with that, I think we finally covered everything even weirder about Rotom's employable form. Moving on, the Rotom Dex is a Gen 7 exclusive version of the traditional Pokédex with a little bit of personality, a little seasoning, if you will. The Rotom Dex was seemingly an earlier iteration of the Rotom Phone, having things like the ability to call people and the map baked into its UI. Can't really call it just a Pokédex, can you? Outside of being a more awesome version of the Pokédex, Rotom also came with the ability to never shut the fuck up. Ever. He's basically the little voice in the back of your head, so maybe for lobotomites, this one might just be peak, but otherwise, he's the narrator to your journey who just cannot stop himself from commenting on every little thing. And I respect it. Contrary to what you might think, I genuinely do miss a lot of the dialogues from him. It made you feel like from start to finish, you had a buddy sticking it out with you and rooting for you the whole way. Additionally, my friend Red Weavile in his Grand Delusions also believes that the personality they gave to the Rotom Dex leaks into a lot of Gen 7's Pokédex entries. For example, in Ultra Sun, Litten's Pokédex entry says this: if you try too hard to get close to it, it won't open up to you. Even if you do grow close, giving it too much affection is still a no-no. In Pokemon Shield, it reads, trying to pet Litten before it trusts you will result in a nasty scratch from its sharp claws. Be careful. Comparing those examples to a Pokemon from earlier gens, say Charizard, a lot of the language and formalities are seen to shift. For example, it is said that Charizard's fire burns hotter if it has experienced harsh battles. If Charizard becomes furious, the flame at the the tip of its tail flares up in a light blue shade. Now, to make this argument, I did have to do a little bit of cherry picking because more than anything, I find it to be an interesting theory, and I can't imagine they would tell all the writers of the Dex entries to drastically change all of the pre-Gen 7 Pokemon facts, so it makes sense that the personality would show up more in the Pokemon that released alongside Sun and Moon. That said, if you don't like this theory, you know who to go focus your hate on. Hint, it's not me. And if you do really want to focus your anger on me, please, for the love of God, do not drop a sub. That shit would ruin my whole day. In Gen 8 and beyond, they finally let Big Boy have his first iPad, also known as the Rotom Phone. Finally, now you get the ability to keep a snap streak with your crush and slander your opponents online. They still haven't added that? Wait, who have I been snapping? In actuality, not much has changed from the Rotom Dex to the Rotom Phone besides one heartbreaking fact. They swiped our boy's ability to give us legendary commentary. Freedom of speech is not a thing in Galar. Our Rotom Phone is more like a regular phone now, and the more I think of it, the more I'm just kind of confused as to why it's even called a Rotom Phone anymore. Throughout the series, a Pokédex doesn't need Rotom to scan Pokemon. A phone doesn't need Rotom to call your mom for you. If he's not giving you commentary, I genuinely don't know what he's there for anymore. Extra battery life, the ability to call hands-free? I know the serious answer is more than anything is just fun. Like, it makes more sense for Rotom to be telling you where to go next than just a random UI. It adds better realism to the games, if nothing else. But I just find it funny to be like, this brand new invention, and then it's just Rotom doing the same shit that you've been able to do in every game prior without him. The little dude volunteered to be worked to the bone for free, and it does nothing. Now, I will say, the one nice thing about him in Gen 9 and ZA is that his ability to fly out of your pocket, as weird as it sounds, does actually come into play. Being that with the addition of open world 3D Pokemon, sometimes you can jump off a cliff or two, and every single time your Rotom Phone will be there to catch you. My only side note with this is, of course, it's more so a benefit of having a Rotom in general, not necessarily that he's specifically attached to your phone. But hey, maybe you wouldn't have had Rotom in your party otherwise, so Rotom Phone to the rescue, baby. And for the people who have played Gen 8, I know you're just about ready to write up a really mean comment about how I'm missing one very important feature of the Rotom Phone and just purposely slandering it. And while you're right, before I get into it, it still does not need to be a phone to do this. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else too, the Rotom Bike. The Rotom Bike just about follows the same rules as every other Rotom powered device in the series. Bikes were introduced in, I think, Gen 1, I believe. Furthermore, bike gears, which allowed you to speed up, slow down, and everything in between, was a feature all the way back in, I want to say Gen 4. So making a bike that magically needs Rotom to change speeds and frames it more of a speed boost than a permanent gear shift is just objectively worse. To be honest, to me, this just felt like bad game design. Like, so far, I appreciated everything they did in terms of changes to Rotom, like making his battle forms more convenient to change, making the Rotom Phone be a better explanation for UI and world continuity, but a temporary speed boost in a single player game that long ago introduced the concept of gear changing is just weird. Like, if the single player part goes over your head, what I'm trying to say is that temporary speed boosts make sense in racing games, for example, timing when to use your boost to cut off opponents, ram into their back, pause, or rush to pick up an item before somebody else can makes sense. But you're in this world by yourself the whole time. Nobody's gonna get to Weedle before you. Poor choice in my opinion, but maybe I'm forgetting some awesome racing minigame that lasts for like 1/76 of the game's playtime. So leave a comment on what you think about this change and let me know if I'm the one tweaking. In Gen 8, you really started to notice a little bit of a pattern. They were really having fun with this whole Rotom bit. Enter the Rotomi, and fuck it, I don't really have much to say on it, so enter the drone Rotom as well. These were both purely style choices with the game, and I'm honestly not mad at it at all. As long as it doesn't take away from enjoyable gameplay mechanics, make Rotom your aesthetic to your heart's content. The Rotomi and Drone Rotom were both introduced in Sword and Shield, one meant to replace the old, outdated, and frankly unappealing PC, and the other to replace referees, I guess. Rotomi is genuinely one of the most useless little critters on the entire list of Rotom evolutions. I know that's harsh, but the thing is, it's just a PC with Rotom super glued to the top of it. I do think some of the features of the Rotomi are cool, like Pokejobs are a really fun feature, and the whole Lotto ID thing was pretty great too, both kind of in that same vein of making previous features more convenient to access in one spot without it just not making sense. But Rotom absolutely did not need to be involved in the making of a job website. I swear Squarespace has a pretty good website builder, and I only know because I can't seem to escape their ads on YouTube. And to be honest, in terms of the drone Rotom, there's really just not much to say. I mean, sure, make the referees robots. You're not gonna hear me complain. Rotom's evolutions over the years has been a wild ride. For better or for worse, little dude's limits of what he can accomplish have been strenuously tested, and to be honest, an argument could be made that he's the hardest working Pokemon in the entire franchise, which then begs the question, do Rotoms have rights? Like workplace human rights? Sorry, Rotom rights? Should they? Food for thought, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for watching, and please drop a sub if you want to see more content like this. I'll see you all in the next one.